Jake stepped off the human shuttle with a tired smile. He had been chosen as the first human to stay on the alien planet Elvara for peaceful cultural exchange. His job was simple: among the Elvari people, learn their customs, and share human life in return. The air on Elvara was light and cool, with a soft golden tint. Small floating plants moved slowly through the sky, and the ground felt warm under his boots. It was beautiful, but also strange. A group of Elvari stood waiting. They looked humanoid, but with faint patterns glowing across their skin. Their eyes were larger, more reflective, and they had thin, soft tendrils that hung behind their heads like hair. One of them, a young female named Lie, stood at the back. She was quiet and watched Jake with wide eyes. She had been told stories about humans all her life, stories that made her heart beat fast when she saw one now standing just feet away. They said humans were strong, fast, and dangerous. They said humans mated by claiming and consuming. It was an old legend, told by elders, passed down through whispers. No one really saw it happen. But no one wanted to take the risk either. Lia's mother once told her if a human ever smiles at you and licks their lips, run, means they've chosen you. She had believed it, even though part of her always wondered if it was just a story to scare her. But now, as the human had come, Jake greeted everyone kindly. He bowed his head, offered gifts, and spoke in calm, slow words. Most Elvari were curious, some even friendly, but not Lia. She stayed back, her eyes following every move he made. The day passed quickly. Jake explored the village, learning the names of the houses and trees. He was shown where he would live, a small home built just for him. It was simple but cozy. In the evening, the villagers gathered in the center. Food was shared. Jake was handed a bright green fruit by a child. It looked like a mix of a pear and a melon. He smiled, nodded thanks, and bit into it. The fruit was juicy and sweet, and the juice ran down his fingers, without thinking. He smiled and slowly licked his lips to clean the juice. Lia was watching from the edge of the group. Her heart dropped. He'd smiled. He had licked his lips, just like in the story. Her eyes filled with tears before she could stop them. Fear wrapped around her chest. Her legs shook as she turned and ran into the trees without a word. Jake blinked, confused. He saw her run and looked around. No one else moved. The others continued eating like nothing had happened. He asked the elder next to him, "Is she okay?" The elder looked over his shoulder. "That is Lia. She is shy. I didn't mean to upset her," Jake said. The elder only nodded and took another bite of fruit. Later that night, Jake lay awake in his bed. He kept thinking about the girl. Something about her reaction didn't feel normal. She had looked terrified. But why? Meanwhile, Lia was curled up in her room, breathing fast. Her older sister sat beside her, rubbing her back. He smiled. Lia whispered, and he licked his lips. "I saw it." Her sister frowned. "You mean after eating the fruit?" Lia nodded quickly. "That doesn't mean what you think it does," her sister said softly. He was probably just enjoying the taste. "What if the stories are true?" Lia asked. "What if he picked me? He didn't chase you. He didn't say anything strange? Maybe the stories are wrong." Lia looked down. She wanted to believe that, but fear was strong. She remembered her mother's voice. "They lick their lips. They've chosen you." But what if her sister was right? Back in his home, Jake picked up a small recording device and began his log. Day 1 on Elvara. Very peaceful people, beautiful world. But something strange happened. A girl saw me eat fruit and ran away crying. I hope I didn't offend anyone. Maybe there's a food custom I broke. I'll ask the council tomorrow. He sighed and put the device down. Outside, the night air was still. Small glowing bugs danced in the dark. Lia stood quietly near the trees, watching Jake's house from afar. She saw the lights go out. He was sleeping. He hadn't come after her, hadn't knocked on her door, he hadn't done anything, maybe. Maybe he wasn't a monster after all. But still, she couldn't forget the way he had looked at her, or the way his tongue had moved across his lips. It had felt like the old story had come alive. She turned and went home, confused and afraid. but also curious tomorrow, she decided. She would watch him again, just to be sure. The next morning, Jake walked toward the village square with a calm smile on his face. He had slept well, but his mind was still stuck on the strange moment from yesterday. He wanted to understand what he did wrong. He met with the village council, a group of elder Elvari who guided their people with wisdom. They welcomed him politely. One of the elders, a calm female named Vera, asked how he was adjusting. "Everything's been great," Jake said, "but I think I scared one of the villagers, a girl named Laya. She saw me eat a fruit, and then she ran away crying." The elders glanced at one another. Vera leaned forward. "Did you lick your lips after eating?" Jake blinked. "Yes, I didn't even think about it. It was just a habit." The elders nodded slowly. Vera gave a soft sigh. "You did not offend us, Jake. But there's an old belief among some families. Long ago, our ancestors saw early humans hunting. They misunderstood some of your ways." Jake frowned. "Misunderstood how?" "Some believe that humans consume their mates. When a human smiles and licks their lips, it is seen as a sign. A sign that someone has been chosen, ... to be eaten." Jake stared in shock. "You're kidding?" "Sadly, no," Vera said gently. "It is only a story now. Most do not believe it. But young ones who grow up hearing it, they can still be frightened." "So Laya thought," Jake began, then rubbed his forehead. "Oh no, I didn't mean to scare her." "We know," Vera said kindly. "Perhaps in time, she will understand that you meant no harm." Jake nodded slowly. "I want to fix it, if I can. Just be kind," Vera said. "Let her see the truth on her own." What? Meanwhile, Leah stood behind one of the tall trees that lined the village. She had been there since sunrise, peeking toward the center. She saw Jake speaking with the elders. She watched his hands, his face, his movements. He didn't seem like a predator. He looked soft, but fear still sat quietly in her chest. Later that day, Jake decided to help with the daily chores. He joined the workers in the field, carrying water and picking fruit. He smiled at everyone and tried not to lick his lips, even when the fruit juice ran down his chin. Children laughed around him. One small Elvari boy offered him a tiny flower. Jake smiled and gently tucked it behind the boy's ear. The boy giggled and ran off. Leah watched this from behind a stack of crates. Her fingers curled into her sleeve. How could someone who gave flowers to children be dangerous? Still, she didn't step out. She only watched. That night, Jake sat alone near the fire circle, roasting a strange root that tasted like sweet corn. His translator device buzzed softly in his ear, helping him understand the Elvari around him. An elder came to sit with him. "You've made the children happy," he said. "I hope I can make Laya smile someday too," Jake said quietly. "She is not cruel," the elder said. "She is simply afraid." "I understand," Jake replied. "I'll be patient." Far away in a quiet room, Leah sat with her older sister again. She whispered, "He helped in the fields today, even played with the children." Her sister smiled. "And did he choose anyone to eat?" Laya looked down. "No. Maybe the stories are wrong." Laya didn't answer. She kept thinking about Jake's smile and how it seemed warm, not hungry, and how his hands looked gentle, not dangerous. The next morning, Jake carried a wooden crate to the schoolhouse. Inside were little drawings he had made. Simple pictures of earth trees, rivers, a dog, a smiling human family. He gave them to the teacher to share with the young Elvari. The kids were excited. They crowded around the drawings and asked questions. Jake sat with them, laughing, explaining everything in easy words. Laya stood near the doorway, not inside, but not far either. The teacher noticed her and gently waved her in. Laya shook her head but didn't leave. Jake looked up and saw her. He smiled, not wide, not scary, just soft. And simple. Laya froze for a second. He didn't lick his lips this time. Instead, he waved at her, slow and kind. She didn't wave back. She didn't run either. That was something. As the day passed, Jake felt hopeful. He knew he couldn't erase fear in one day, but he could show through actions who he really was. That night, he added another entry to his log. Day 2. Spoke with the elders about the misunderstanding. Turns out there's an old myth about humans that caused some fear. I'm trying to show them the truth. Today, Leah didn't run. She didn't smile yet, but maybe someday. Back in her room, Leah held one of the drawings the teacher had given her. It was of a dog with its tongue out. She traced the lines with her finger. "He draws like a child," she whispered. But her lips curved just a little. Maybe she would talk to him tomorrow. Maybe. The morning sun rose slowly over the hills of Elvira. Golden mist floated between the trees as the village came to life. Birds sang soft songs from the treetops, and the air smelled sweet from the blooming plants. Jake woke early again. He stretched, stepped outside, and took a deep breath. It was a peaceful place. But his mind was on one thing, Leah. She hadn't run the day before. That gave him hope. He had an idea. With a small wooden board, he painted a picture. It was simple. It showed 2 people, 1 human, and 1 Elvari, sitting under a tree, sharing food. And no fear, no danger. Just 2 beings learning from each other. He took the board to the village square and placed it near the fire circle, where everyone could see it. Later in the day, children ran around laughing and pointing at the drawing. Some tried to copy it. On the ground with sticks, Leah walked by slowly, carrying a basket of fruits. She noticed the board. Her steps paused. Her eyes stayed on the picture. She didn't say a word, but something softened in her face. Jake saw her, gave a small wave just, like the day before. This time Leah gave the smallest nod before walking away inside. Her heart was confused. He wasn't acting like the stories. He wasn't chasing her, shouting or staring at her like she was food. He was drawing peaceful things. He was playing. With children, he was helping build homes. Still, the memory of his smile and that one moment when he licked his lips stayed in her mind. But now, how did the new things? The same evening, the village held a small gathering near the river. Music played from handmade instruments. Drums made of bark and windpipes carved from crystal plants. Families brought food, and everyone sat together. Jake was invited, and he came with a small gift, a wooden flute from Earth. When he played, the sound was soft, like wind and rain mixed together. The Elvari around him listened quietly. Many closed their eyes, letting the notes carry them. Leah was sitting under a tree nearby, not too far but not in the crowd either. She heard the music and felt something she didn't expect, peace. After the music ended, Jake stood up and spoke slowly. "On my world," he said, "we share music to bring people together. We sing when we're happy, and sometimes when we're sad too, but we never use music to hurt." The translator device repeated his words in Elvari. Many nodded. Some clapped softly. Then Jake held up a new drawing. It showed an Elvari and a human standing side by side, both smiling under the same sun. He looked at the crowd. "I made this for someone," he said. "Someone who ran from me. But I understand why. I only want to be her friend." Crowd was quiet. Leah's heart beat fast. He had made it for her. He didn't say her name, but she knew. She stood up. Her legs felt heavy, but she walked slowly toward the circle. Everyone watched as she stepped forward, her eyes on Jake. Jake didn't move. He stayed still, letting her choose what to do. She stopped a few feet away. "You're drawing," she said. Softly. "It is kind." "Thank you," Jake replied. Leah looked down. "The stories, they scared me, I thought. You would hurt me." "I never would," Jake said. "I promise." Leah took a breath. You smiled. You licked your lips. "I thought you had chosen me." Jake nodded. "I understand now. I'm sorry. I didn't know about the story." Leah looked up at him. "Why didn't you come after me?" "Because real friends wait," Jake said. "They don't chase fear. They give space." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I watched you. You helped children. You made music. You made pictures. You were not scary." Jake smiled gently. "I'm glad you saw that." "I'm still a little afraid," Leah admitted. "That's okay," Jake said. Fear doesn't leave in one day. Leia looked around. The villagers were watching, but they weren't judging. They were smiling. Her sister stood in the back, giving her a small nod. She turned to Jake again. Maybe we can be friends. Jake's smile grew a little brighter. I'd like that. The crowd clapped softly. Jake handed her the drawing. Leia took it with careful hands. She looked at the two figures under the sun and whispered, maybe the stories were wrong. Maybe the truth is better, Jake said. She gave a small laugh. You still smile too much. I'll try to control it, Jake said with a grin. She didn't run. She didn't cry. She stood next to him, holding the picture in her arms, and for the first time, she believed that not all stories were true. The next morning, sunlight poured gently over the village of Elvera. The air was fresh and soft, filled with the sounds of birds and the rustling of leaves. Jake woke early, feeling hopeful. Iya had accepted his friendship, and that small step filled him with joy. He had planned to learn more about the Elvari bonding rituals today. The elders had invited him to watch a special ceremony. Jake knew these rituals were very important to the people here, and he wanted to understand everything carefully. Leia arrived at the meeting place just before the ceremony began. She was nervous, but curious. She still remembered the old stories. That had scared her. But now, standing near Jake, she felt a little braver. The ritual started with the elders lighting a circle of soft blue flames. The flames did not burn, but glowed gently, giving the place a magical feeling. Music played softly in the background. It was created by strange instruments made of crystal and wood. Leia watched as two Elvari stepped into the circle. They were friends who wanted to show trust and connection. They shared food, touched their foreheads gently, and spoke words that Jake could not understand but felt were kind and true. Jake watched carefully. He noticed how every touch was soft and respectful. No one looked afraid or forced. When the ceremony ended, Leia took a deep breath and turned to Jake. These rituals show trust and friendship, she said softly. They do not harm anyone. Jake smiled. Thank you for letting me see. Leia nodded. I want to show you something too. She led him to a quiet place near a sparkling river. The water was clear and cool. She picked a glowing fruit from a nearby tree and held it out to Jake. This is a gift, she said. It means I trust you. Jake looked at the fruit carefully. It shone softly in his hand, warm and alive. He smiled and accepted it with care. Thank you, Leia, he said. I will treasure this. Leia blushed slightly. I watched you eat the fruit yesterday. You did not lick your lips. Jake laughed quietly. I am trying to learn. Sat by the river together, talking about their homes and dreams. Jake told her about Earth's oceans and mountains. Leia shared stories of Elvera's forests and skies. As the sun began to set, Jake stood up. I want to show you something now. He reached into his pack and pulled out a small device. The press of a button, a light shone, and images appeared, pictures of Earth's cities, animals, and families. Leia's eyes widened. She saw humans, smiling, children playing, people working and helping each other. This is your world? She asked. Yes, Jake said. And it is full of many kinds of people. Some look like me, some look different. But we all share kindness. Leia smiled. Your world sounds beautiful. Jake looked at her and said quietly, Leia, do you think you could trust me? Not just with gifts or pictures, but with your heart. Leia's cheeks turned red. She looked down. I want to try. Jake took her hand gently. We can take it slow. No rush. Leia felt warmth spread in her chest. She squeezed his hand back. The stars began to twinkle above them as night fell. They stayed by the river a little longer, watching the sky. Leia thought about the old stories one last time. Maybe some stories were made to protect, but others were meant to be broken. And maybe, just maybe, a human was not the monster she once feared. The next morning, the village of Elvera was alive with soft light and gentle sounds. Jake woke feeling calm but excited. Today was special. He and Leia planned to explore the nearby forest together. It was a place full of ancient trees and hidden wonders. Leah was waiting outside his home. She wore a simple dress made of soft leaves and flowers. Her glowing patterns shimmered faintly in the morning sun. When she saw Jake, she smiled a smile that warmed his heart. "Are you ready?" Jake asked. Leah nodded. "Yes. I want to show you my world." They walked side by side along a narrow path. The forest was quiet but full of life. Strange birds with bright feathers sang above them. Small animals with shining eyes peeked from behind trees. Leah pointed to a tree with golden bark. "This tree is very old. It has stood here for hundreds of years." Jake reached out and touched the bark. It felt rough, but warm, like it was alive. "What is this plant?" Jake asked, looking at a strange flower with petals that glowed softly. "It's called the star bloom," Leah said. "It only opens at night and glows to guide lost travelers." They reached a small clearing where the sun shone down like a spotlight. In the center was a circle of stones covered in moss. "This is a sacred place," Leah explained. "Our ancestors used it to make promises, to share secrets, to build trust." Jake looked around, feeling the calm energy. He took a deep breath and said, "I want to make a promise." Leah looked at him with wide eyes. "I promise to respect your world, your people, and you," Jake said, holding out his hand. Leah hesitated, then smiled and took his hand in hers. "I promise to trust you," she said. They sat together in the clearing, sharing stories. Jake told her about Earth's oceans and stars. Leah spoke of Elvira's glowing nights in deep forests. As the day passed, they grew closer. Leah's fears melted like morning mist. She began to see humans not as monsters, but as friends. She learned that Jake's lips sometimes moved in strange ways, not to eat, but to speak and smile. Jake showed Leah how to play a simple human game catch. She laughed as he gently tossed a small glowing fruit to her. She caught it clumsily, and they both smiled. Later, they rested by a quiet stream. Jake pulled out a small book filled with pictures. He showed her photos of his family, friends, and his home city. Leah was amazed. "You have many people who love you." "Yes," Jake said softly. "And now I have a friend here too." His eyes sparkled. She looked at Jake and said, "Thank you for being patient with me." "Thank you for trusting me," Jake replied. The sun began to set, painting the sky with colors of pink and orange. They stood and began walking back to the village. Leah stopped suddenly. She looked at Jake and whispered, "There is something I want to ask." Jake smiled gently.
"Anything."
"Do humans really eat their mates?" Jake laughed softly. "No, that was just a story. Humans show love in many ways. Kindness, sharing, caring. We don't eat each other." Leah looked relieved and laughed quietly. "I guess stories can be wrong sometimes," she said. "Yes," Jake agreed, "but the truth is often better." They reached the village just as stars began to shine. The world felt different, now warmer, safer, full of hope. Leah and Jake knew that trust was growing between their worlds, one step at a time. The village of Elvira was quiet in the early morning light. Jake woke feeling calm and hopeful. Today was the day he and Leah would take their friendship a step further. Both had grown close, but there was still more to learn and understand. Leah arrived at Jake's home, carrying a small basket filled with glowing fruits. She smiled shyly as she handed one to Jake. "This is for you," she said softly, "to show my trust." Jake took the fruit carefully, touched her hand gently, and smiled back. They set out together toward the village clearing, where the elders often met. Today they would join a special ceremony called the Bonding of Hearts. It was a rare event where two beings showed their deep connection and trust. As they walked, Leah's thoughts raced. She remembered the old stories, but now they felt far away. She trusted Jake more than she ever thought possible when they arrived. The clearing was decorated with soft blue lights and flowers. The villagers gathered around in a circle. The elders welcomed them with kind smiles. Jake and Leah stood side by side in the center. One elder began to speak, explaining the meaning of the ceremony. It was about friendship, trust, and the promise to protect each other. Leah looked at Jake and felt a warm glow inside. She took his hand in hers, and he held it gently. The elder gave them each a glowing band made from woven vines and crystals. They placed the bands on each other's wrists, a symbol of their bond. Leah looked down at the band on her wrist. It pulsed softly as if alive. "This means we trust each other," Jake said quietly. "Yes," Leah replied, "and that we will care for one another. After..." Jake and Leah laughed and danced with the children. The old fears were gone, replaced by a new feeling hope. Later that night, Jake and Leah sat beneath the stars by the river. Leah looked at Jake and smiled. "I used to be afraid," she said softly. "Afraid of humans. Afraid of you." Jake nodded. "I understand. Fear is natural. But you showed me kindness," Leah continued. "And patience. You never rushed me or made me feel small. Because friendship is a journey," Jake said, "not a race." Leah reached out and touched his cheek gently. "Thank you for teaching me." Jake smiled and leaned closer. He lightly licked his lips in old habit. Leah laughed, rolling her eyes. "Still doing that, huh? Old habits die hard," Jake joked. They both laughed together. The sound mixing with the night breeze, Leah rested her head on Jake's shoulder, feeling safe and happy. The stars above seemed to shine brighter, as if celebrating their new bond. From fear to friendship, from stories to truth, they had found something special, and this was only the beginning.